People, Deluded, I'm back again. Merry belated Christmas, and I hope you're all having a happy festive period. It was decent weather yesterday in London. I've just looked out the window because I can actually hear it raining. Looks very terrible outside. I enjoyed my day. I saw a lot of the comments saying, oh, DJ's going to wake up with a hangover. No, because I'm consistent. I'm back again, people. But before Arsenal obviously kick off against Bournemouth on Amazon, for those who don't know, make sure you get your Amazon Prime. Or if you want to twang it, I'm pretty sure you can get a free Amazon trial, people. Use it and then bust out. I don't do that, but, you know, if you're trying to save a couple of pennies, do your thing. But obviously, we'll get onto this. This is in relation to Xhaka, but there's been some comments that have surfaced, mainly Arteta in relation to Xhaka, and obviously some other comments, and there's obviously some transfer business as well. Well, not really transfer business, stuff I forgot to mention yesterday. So let's start off with the ridiculous people, or not the ridiculous things that are potentially not going to happen. If you give me a second. I actually cannot find it, people. This is very unprofessional of me. Here it is. Le10 Sport, I believe one of their journalists was one of the first to break the Pepe news that Pepe was coming to Arsenal. So take that with a pinch of salt. And again, don't shoot the messenger. But apparently, Arsenal are prioritising the signing of Lyon striker Moussa Dembele for the coming months. Alex Bernard 10, who broke Arsenal's interest in Nicolas Pepe, claims the North London club are expecting one of Aubameyang or Lacazette to leave. He goes on to say, Arsenal are willing to meet Lyon's demands and will attempt to sign him either next month or in the summer. Now, you can see why we all know if one, if not both of them players go, obviously Martinelli could probably step up, but we probably need one or two strikers. Definitely one if Aubameyang leaves, because you can say, okay, you let Lacazette go, you fix up the defence of the spine of the team, and you utilise Aubameyang for the last 2 years you've got, also in his at the top level, 2-3 years, assuming he stays, or you let him go and you have Lacazette. But if you keep Lacazette, I love Lacazette. I think he's a baller. I think he's getting a harsh time from fans. I think he is in poor form, but perspective, hasn't he got 5 goals in 10 in the league this season? That being said, my personal opinion on Lacazette is I think he brings a lot of creativity to the side. I think he brings people in. I do think the creativity angle that people use to kind of allow him in terms of not scoring, I do think his creative output is overstated. You are allowed to recognise his creative output and how he brings people into the game, but also feel that it's overstated. It's not no Mesut Ozil in his prime, or Di Maria at Real Madrid, or Kaká, or any sort of, or Kevin De Bruyne at City, or any good creative outlet or attacking outlet. I don't think it's of that level. I also believe Lacazette, for his ability, should get 20 league goals. I know he's had injuries. There was a time he wasn't playing in position. Obviously, there was a time he was always getting subbed. But whatever way you shape it, if all of that's flipped to Aubameyang, I think Aubameyang gets 20 league goals. You get it? I think Lacazette's good enough for that. And for a team of uncertainties, Aubameyang is one of the players that gives us some sort of certainty in that rain, sunshine, snow, bench, left wing, you know, super sub. For all your criticism of Aubameyang, he's scoring 20 league goals minimum. Now, Arsenal season is nothing to shout about, but where would we be without them goals? It doesn't mean Aubameyang's been amazing, where he's pulled his weight, but there's been times I've wanted a bit more. But where would we be without him? Do you get it, people? We need assurances. And right now, Leno, in terms of the saving shots, and Aubameyang is the only assurances. So if we did sell Lacazette or Aubameyang, a substantial amount that was brought in because of them two, man, is going to have to be used on a striker. Now, I got a lot of time for Dembele. I think in the last 18 months in particular, he's really gone up a level. Don't think he had the best of under-21s championships with France. Neither did Upamecano, another man that was previously linked with us. But I like him. He's in his early 20s. He's got potential. Obviously, he's had a firm education playing football in the Champions League and just Scottish top flight with Celtic. He's gone to Lyon to keep playing games, and I do think his general play, and at times he is a bit hot and cold, but I would take him. Admittedly, he would not necessarily be my first choice on the list, because the strikers, I believe, that can get 20 league goals we potentially can't afford, but we have to go for them. But I'd be happy with him. I think he's a very good striker. We have to obviously take this with a pinch of salt. It would be Arsenal to prioritise the striking position when we evidently need a central midfielder. And do I need to tell you how much we need a competent, consistent, and just downright confident centre half or two? So that would be very much Arsenal. So read into that what you will, people. And is there anything else? This is 100% nonsense as well, people. But the sport in Spain have claimed Barcelona will monitor Mikel Arteta closely. He could be an option as a replacement for Valverde. Now, if Barcelona comes, you've got a goal in it at any time. But it is. I mean, Arsenal, we should be, we've got, as rubbish as our team is, we've got a centre-half who hasn't played for our team in Saliba. You hear Barca, Madrid, all these teams are looking at him. We've got a manager who hasn't managed a game, and you're hearing Barca are looking at him. Obviously, I believe that's nonsense. There's question marks over Valverde's future at Barcelona. You've seen Ronald Koeman linked with that role. Arteta, listen, in a crazy world, but if Arteta started his Arsenal job now and Barcelona came, on one hand, I'd want to start what I've finished what I've not even started, but started at Arsenal. But you can't turn down Barcelona. But Barcelona, it would make no sense, because you could say, by Barcelona's own standards, they are struggling. It is very much, I think they've moved away from their identity and things like that. And for a novice in Arteta, it could be a great job, because Pep did it, but it might be a job too big for him at this moment in time, and to go mid-season. So that is just 100% nonsense, people. But I thought, just so we can laugh, we might as well mention it. Don't really want to harp on about this, but Napoli sporting director Cristiano Grintoli, I believe, has been in touch with Arsenal over Lucas Torreira. How many times is he going to get in touch? How many times have we heard this? Napoli want to offer 3 million for an initial loan deal with an obligation to buy for 25 million. They are not willing to negotiate at this time over a permanent transfer in January. So that's a non-starter. Wrap that one in the bud. Now, Mikel Arteta has had, in fact, before we get onto the Xhaka one, he's spoken on the captaincy. He said, "I don't want to change everything drastically in 2 days. I want to put my feelings slowly. I want to see what's going around, and in the right moment, I will make decisions for the benefit of the team and the club." So right now, obviously, he has to stamp his authority, and you heard in his press conference, he's very bullish. Certain things are not negotiable. If you're not down with fighting in terms of applying yourself in training and whatnot, get out of here. Do you get it, people? But at the same time, you can't have too much changes too quickly and rub it in everybody's face that you're the boss and things like that, because it can have a negative effect. Now, for all the tactical knowledge he's got and he's learned from being around Pep, I think one of the best things he's learned is how to manage players. Obviously, our players, there's no players really, only Aubameyang, you could say he's a top player, not world-class, top player in world football and top flight in the league. If we was to put the top 5 or top 10 best Premier League ballers right now around, Aubameyang is the only Arsenal player that we have a claim to. There's nobody else. You could probably say Leno in terms of goalkeepers, but even that, I'm not really, as much as I like Leno and I've warmed to him, you get it, Aubameyang's the only one. So it's not really the same, and it's not exactly the same situation, but he's learned how to manage the egos, how the big players react, how they deal with not playing. Do you get it? If you can, because obviously at City, like I've said before, Sane might be injured, but every week somebody misses out. If it's not Sane, it's Mahrez. Sterling's obviously playing every week, but Sterling, or it's Bernardo, or it's Kevin. Do you get it? So learning how to, you actually have to, you can't be afraid to disappoint people and whatnot, but knowing how you go about that and managing relations is something I'm really keen to see from Arteta, and I think he's got that. But in the main bit, people, The Guardian, he said Mikel Arteta has described Granit Xhaka as a terrific player and said his future lies with Arsenal. Now, when you look at that, there's many different angles. You've heard Xhaka has told his teammates he's leaving and he's going to Hertha Berlin or wherever. So this could be a diplomatic answer, not to make it bait that he's leaving. We could be in negotiations with clubs. If Arteta says a diplomatic answer, we could probably get more money, because on the face of it, beyond what we already rumours and what we already saw a couple of weeks ago or months ago with Xhaka and the fans, that we want to sell him. So if you say your player is available for sale publicly, you're probably going to bring in less money. And considering the wages Xhaka is on, we're not making 40 million, but you'd imagine 20-ish, please. If I was buying Xhaka, it'd be about 15, but 20-ish, please. I like Xhaka. I don't think Xhaka's a bad footballer. He just makes bad decisions. He's got some bad habits, and I think he's one of them that polarises the fan base. And it's even, okay, we know Ozil needs to go, but it's Ozil, Xhaka. There was Giroud at a time. There's players that polarise opinions. There's certain players, it's weird, but Xhaka has stains. People that defend him full time and really love the guy. I'm not talking about him as a person, I'm talking about his ability, because I don't think you should be doing that unless it's Messi or Ronaldo. You've got people who scapegoat Xhaka at the first hurdle, because there has been games he's been terrible, but in general, but sometimes it's not been his fault, or he's not been the worst, but you've heard that it's Xhaka. Even Mustafi at times, as terrible as Mustafi is, So he scapegoats. To some people, he can never do no right. He can never, you get it. To some, he can do no wrong. He can do no right. And some people never praise him. That could be said for football fans in general. We know they play agendas. You could even say that with Arteta, because people are slowly warming to him. But you've seen people, YouTubers and just fans in general, come out and say they're not going to support the manager because I never believed in him. That don't make no sense, does it, people? But that's what I believe. I even think Xhaka's anything from 3 to 5 games since he's come back into the side and we've moved on. I've only seen one bad game from him, and he weren't the worst on the field. I think he's been all right. What I like about Xhaka is, he's one of the few Arsenal players that don't really like taking bad up. He don't really like getting roughed up and things. I've got a lot of time for that. I think he's got a really good personality. I think at times he's got that lovely ball over the top, and he is a fighter. I just think he makes bad decisions. At times he's not aware defensively, like he's not necessarily concentrating all the time, and he makes simple yard passes fail. Positioning. Now for me, Xhaka, the best thing I can see with Arteta is to kind of, obviously, you know your capabilities, but I want him to kind of preach Xhaka's capabilities, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I mean is, Arteta, when he come to Arsenal, he knew his legs was going, and he had to change his game. Obviously, Xhaka is in the prime of his career, relatively, people. But what I feel with Xhaka is, you see him, you could say he's a deep line playmaker. He receives the ball off the centre half, but he is very much box to box. So you can't, on a regular basis, both our central midfielders are up there, and he hasn't necessarily got the pace or ability, or just not the tenacity and able to be mobile to recover. So potentially, can we improve his positioning rather than getting up the field all the time? Can you recognise your capabilities? Potentially stay back or stay in areas where your frailties are going to be exposed less. That's what I would like to see from him. Obviously, the bad habits, and for me, he's got to switch on defensively. It's not just him. The whole team make poor defensive actions, whether it's the defenders, strikers, defenders, goalkeepers. We've made several errors in it. So if Xhaka and even these defenders, they come out of the team, it don't mean we're going to be better in it. But we need to recognise that he has a part to play in the collective, but he's not alone in that. I don't think Xhaka's a bad baller, people. I just think he makes bad decisions. What is his position as well? Because he's been described as a false 10. I like Xhaka. I think he's not tenacious in terms of the ground he covers, but he's tenacious in that he's not on this soft stuff. But at the same time, I do think he's a passenger in this midfield purely because we haven't, and maybe I'll get onto it, but if Arteta's going to build it, I wouldn't say necessarily build the team around him, but build the team so that his frailties are not evident, then cool. Or if we're going to coach the bad habits out of him, then cool. But I just believe with Arsenal's midfield, there's too many people that make the wrong mistakes or just passengers. I think Xhaka and Ozil was more or less suicide in the midfield. I can recognise their technical abilities. I'm always saying both of them should start. But if I'm a rival team, I'm overrunning that midfield purely because you know Ozil already, and you know you can outrun Xhaka in that. So there's already gaps. So more time it's just Torreira doing it all, or it might be a Guendouzi. But no criticism of Guendouzi. He's very naive, and his positioning ain't the best. So there's so many problems with our midfield, people. What he's actually said, people, as well, in short, he said, well, he's revealed that he wanted to sign Xhaka for Manchester City before he's obviously moved to North London 3 years ago. I'm sitting on my iPad. Hopefully that's not broken. And he's also said, when I was going from Arsenal to City to start coaching and we were looking in that position, he was one of the players on my list. This is how much I liked him. I was happy when Arsenal signed him because I thought he was going to be a terrific player. Now, I mean, you could say that potentially City, they needed a centre-half, for example, but they've dodged some bullets. Because again, we can't assume just because he was on the City list or he was on Arteta's list that, he's going to play him and whatnot. He could have just been a target, realised Xhaka's a dud and got rid of him. In the same way, you look at City, they're probably counting them. I think Maguire's been a decent signing for United, but he's got mixed opinions. Probably counting themselves lucky for that. Fred, who you heard they wanted, well, at least to us fans, it looked like they were going for Fred harder than United, and it appeared they lost out on that signing. You could say potentially they dodged the bullet. The way Xhaka is playing, or has been in his 3 years at Arsenal, he has had some good games, but largely he's divided opinion. And if you divide opinion, have you really been a good signing? You could say the same about Ozil. I think Ozil's been a good signing, but if you have to, on a general basis, not Ozil now, but if you have to sit there and debate, is it really been a good one? Do you get it, people? He said, oh well, I've already said it, people. I've already said exactly what he said. And he's gone on to say, I told him how much I like him and what I expect from him, how important he is for the team. I am here to help him. I want him to feel that we are right behind him, not just myself, but the whole club. And that's what, to be honest, I mean, Xhaka, one thing you can give Xhaka is you look at that team, he's one of them that you probably need to get on side because he seems like a leader in the dressing room, seems like somebody liked. There's a reason he was named captain. So maybe there's a bit of that with Arteta. Maybe he legitimately believes in him. Maybe he obviously wants to restore confidence to his player and he wants to utilise him. Xhaka is not a poor footballer. Whatever you say about, well, Arteta hasn't managed the game, but assuming Arteta is going to utilise him based on these comments, whether they're past, present or whatever. You've got Ljungberg in a temporary basis used him. He played a lot under Emre. Obviously, he played a lot under Wenger. So that's about four or so coaches, give or take. They've all utilised him. While I think he divides opinion, there must be something he brings to the table, both on the football field that they deem or something we don't necessarily see as fans. There must be. And this is what brings me on to this. Now, before I continue, people, let me actually check. I've got 11 players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, we're good. Now, when it comes to Xhaka, people, I kept saying mask his deficiencies purely because, logically speaking, if you've got a player and you believe he's got abilities, every player's got shortcomings. It only makes sense to kind of hide them and make them less evident. At Arsenal, on a regular basis, Xhaka being this, you obviously see us in a pivot, and on a regular basis, we're either caught up the field, or one midfielder's there and one's there. We obviously are not able to get out in wide areas quick enough, both of them, not just Xhaka. Obviously, more time, let's just pretend you're in opposition. Xhaka's not switched on, and you see midfield runners. Do you get it, people? There's a bunch of stuff that happens, but that's not necessarily him. For me, I think there's a couple of options you do with Arteta can do with Xhaka. You either coach the problems that have been here and have been evident in the 3 years Xhaka has been here, the many, mistakes or repeated errors he makes, or you either build the team, I wouldn't say build the team around him, because I don't think, unless it's Messi, Ronaldo, Aubameyang, Alexis when he's here, obviously world class, the top players respective at your club, you should be building teams around, man. But is there a way we can potentially hide his lack of mobility, in a sense of, we know he likes to receive the ball off the centre half, that's his job, but do you get like a two kind of defensively minded box-to-box man here that can obviously protect us from wide aerial threats, are switched on with following runners? You obviously have your creative midfielder here. Primarily, you obviously want them to link up there and press from the front. So if he presses from the front and they're defending, obviously Xhaka still needs to defend, but he's kind of got a bit of protection. Obviously, when you play with wingers and fullbacks as well, that can help. And if as a team we press from the front, this might be able to shield Xhaka. Or this has gone into a diamond, I guess, people. Or you could also tell in your attacking mid, 10 to drop into midfield as well, so that essentially it's a 4 of sorts. Do you get it? A sort of 4. 4 is better than 1, and that kind of protects Xhaka. I think Xhaka looks better in a 3, because there was a sec who was playing 4-3-3, I believe, in his first year, and he looks better. I don't think he's disciplined enough just as a player, or knows his own capabilities to play this role, because in theory Xhaka should just stay back here, really. There's no point going up the field because you can't get back. But at the same time, you see, man, let's pretend you're on the opposition, just brush past him. So I'm keen to see what he does with Xhaka. I know many people, because of who Xhaka is, won't be encouraged by Arteta's comments. I'm willing to give him time because he's got a plan, I guess. I like Xhaka. I don't think he's a poor footballer. I would let him leave because of what's happened, and he's just not my cup of tea. But I think he's a decent squad player. I just don't think he's good enough to be a regular. But I'm keen to see Xhaka prove me wrong. I'm keen to see what Arteta is going to do with him. But one thing I would say is that is a hill that he's going to die on. And I wouldn't say Xhaka cost Emre his job, because that's naive and it's not him at all. But if you was to list the many things that went wrong for Emre, sooner or later you're going to come into the midfield and that name is going to pop up. Not just him, it's not a scapegoating thing, but it's going to pop up, people. So I'm keen to see what happens in that regards. But for now, I've got about 3 minutes to do my FPL team, people. I need to reach over for that laptop and go and do it. DG, I'm out.